Have you ever taken a better safe than sorry approach, and it turned out to be the smartest decision you made? I was delivering pizza in a sketchy block of town late at night. Huge apartment complex with multiple buildings. Walking up to the front door, I noticed a couple guys wearing dark clothing about 100 feet behind me walking in my direction. Delivery was on the second floor, and by the time I reached her door, I heard the main door of the apartment complex open and close. She used a credit card for the order and tipped in cash, so when I was putting the receipt into my bag, where I kept my cash, I actually pulled the rest of the cash out and stuffed it into my inner jacket pocket just to be safe, leaving just the change I had that night in the bag. I started to head down the stairs back out to my car, and two guys jumped out from behind the stairs, and the one had a gun pointed at me and told me to give them the money. I quickly handed them my bag filled with quarters, and they took off towards the back entrance of the apartment complex. I never ran so fast in my life back to my car. I wanted to make sure I was as far away as possible before they realized they robbed me of $3.50 in quarters. During a visit to our dad, who lived in Latin America, my siblings and I went on a road trip together. One night, we were driving along a desolate highway under a cloud-covered sky, with no moon or lights to guide us. This particular stretch of road was notorious for criminals who would lay traps to puncture tires and rob unsuspecting motorists. As we continued, we noticed a man pulled over, waving for help. My dad stopped behind him, and the man, visibly frightened, asked if we could light up his car while he changed a flat tire. My dad prepared to get out and help, but my sister had a strong feeling that something was amiss. She grabbed my dad, insisting that it didn't feel right. Although my dad tried to reassure us, my sister held on to him, preventing him from leaving the car. At that moment, a car sped by, barely missing my dad, who would have been standing right in its path. 4 men jumped out of the vehicle, one of them grabbing the stranded motorist and putting a gun to his head, while the others sprinted toward our car. We managed to escape by driving at 170 kilometers per hour, and after a tense chase, they eventually gave up. My sister's instincts had saved my dad's life, and likely ours as well, by making him stay in the car those crucial extra seconds. In the end, the man with the gun to his head survived the ordeal, and we saw him talking to the National Guard a few kilometers down the road. It's still unclear if he was in on the scheme, but his genuine look of fear that night remains etched in my memory, even 15 years later.
It was a late-night shift at the gambling video poker place where I worked alone. The place was quiet, and I was preparing to close up for the night. Out of nowhere, a peculiar man walked in and struck up a conversation with me. As part of my job, I was expected to be friendly and approachable to all customers, so I engaged him in small talk. Something about this man made me feel uneasy, so I decided to text my boyfriend and a friend about the situation. I even managed to discreetly snap a photo of the stranger as he inched closer to the counter where I stood. I quickly sent the photo to my friend who happened to be awake at the time. Without hesitation, my friend called me and immediately began driving the 20 minutes to my workplace. She arrived an hour before my shift ended. It's worth noting that I didn't have a car, so there were no other vehicles in the deserted parking lot apart from his, which was conveniently backed in right next to the front door. 2 days later, a missing persons report surfaced, detailing the disappearance of someone with a strikingly similar appearance and build to mine. The report also mentioned suspected trafficking in the area. The person had gone missing on the same night that the strange man had visited my workplace. He left only after my friend showed up. I've never experienced such a chilling sensation in my life, and I'm convinced that sending those messages and having my friend arrive at the scene saved me from a horrifying fate. The man had clearly been waiting for me to finish work at 1 a.m., our hours displayed prominently on the front door.
I lock my doors habitually, walk through a door, reach behind me, twist the lock. It's the way I was raised, and I honestly don't even think about it. I've actually gotten myself into trouble absent-mindedly locking other people's doors. House, offices, shops. I'm a menace. This one night I'm sitting and reading pretty late and I suddenly think, I need to check my front door to make sure it's locked. Lo and behold, it's actually unlocked. Shocked me a bit, but I locked the door and the deadbolt and slid the chain for good measure, then go get myself a glass of water. As I'm walking with my glass of water from the kitchen back past my front door, I catch a movement out of the corner of my eye. I turn to the door and watch the doorknob slowly try to turn left and right. The micro movements that a locked doorknob does when twisted. I put on as deep of a voice as I can and forcefully stage project, "I have a gun, and I'm calling the cops." The doorknob stopped turning. I slept in a closet that night, just in case. I can still recall the night my instincts kept me safe in Baltimore. After finishing a late shift, I pulled up outside my place, needing to retrieve a backpack from my trunk before heading inside. As I glanced around, I noticed a group of teenagers loitering on the nearby corner. Something about the situation made me uneasy, so instead of getting out of my car, I decided to call my roommate and ask them to keep an eye on me as I made my way to the door. Not even 10 minutes after I safely entered our home, a girl came running down the street, bloodied and in distress. She explained that she had been jumped by the group of teenagers for no apparent reason. That night, I learned a valuable lesson about trusting my instincts and staying alert in every situation. It's a lesson that's stuck with me ever since, and a reminder that sometimes it's better to be safe than sorry.
Normally, I'm pretty impressionable and cave to peer pressure, but this one time when I was younger, I was hanging with my friends and a couple of older high school guys I'd only met that day. The girls were all fawning over them, but I could tell they were idiots. When they all wanted to go for a drive with the guys, I thought, nah, I don't trust these guys, and I think it's best I just call my parents and go home. I got a call the next morning from one of the girls who was passenger. One of the high school boys was driving. They'd had a serious crash, and one of the girls wasn't wearing her seatbelt and hit her head on the dash and was in a coma for 6 months. She was in intensive care and rehabilitation for years. Still can't believe of all the days I decided not to go with the flow, it probably saved my life. Terribly sad about my friend. We were really close, but she never came right, and her personality changed. I still wonder how successful she might have been, and if we'd still be friends if that hadn't happened to her. Really sad.
One morning as I was getting ready for school, I heard my mom violently vomiting in the bathroom. With a weak voice, she told me it was just a stomach bug and insisted that I go to school, but also mentioning that her arm hurts. However, a nagging feeling in my gut told me something was seriously wrong. I made a decision that would change our lives forever. Quietly, I called the ambulance from downstairs, and they quickly arrived to assess my mom. As they took her into the ambulance, she suffered 3 cardiac arrests, needing to be defibrillated each time. After a double bypass surgery, my mom made a miraculous recovery and was up and about within a month. The paramedics later told me that if I hadn't trusted my instincts and called for help, my mom would have passed away just 5 minutes after I left for school. That day, I learned the true power of intuition and the importance of listening to that inner voice. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for more exciting content. See you next time.